All right, you bunch of yahoos, strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention.
And welcome back to another episode of Toxic Masculinity. We are here to entertain, inform, offend, defend anybody and everybody. Don't get your panties in a wad. If you do get your feelings hurt, well, maybe you just need a good dose of good old masculinity, because you're talking to a few guys that woke up this morning and we identified as real men in America. Oh, okay. Well, we're rolling here right now. I just know that we're going to be joined. Today's guest, I know I'm flying solo here right now, but I hear that my cohort might be close by, Don Fry. But we are joined today by a man that I've known for quite a few years, Skip Hall. I'll just say he's known as Skip Hall, but Skip Hall has worn many hats over many, many years.
Do you remember Jamie Levine?
Oh, yeah, of course I do. I got some great stories with Jamie Levine, you bet.
Me too. He, my first fight was one of the shows that Jamie put on, and I shouldn't have fought it. The guy was bigger than you were when I fought. He was 6'5", 265, but I did. So it's in another crazy story. We were in Atlanta getting ready for the fight the next day. And it was on from ESPN at that time, but they couldn't put it on air because we were kind of prevented from that. So
I think everything was being shot to video, right? I think a lot was just being put on videotapes, and they end up at your local Blockbuster, things of that nature.
Yep. That's it. Yeah, they on TV. All the troubles we had with that. But,
yes.
So I'm out there. My wife's out there with me, and we're next to the pool, a couple other guys and there was. And she comes walking out and she said, Skip, she said, there's a guy you're going to fight. I said, okay. She said, let's go home. Nobody'll ever know.
She said, let's go home.
Because he was big. Yeah, he was big. I'm 5'9" at most. And, she said, let's go home. Nobody will know, really. Let's go.
Wow.
And she had a right to be afraid, because that was a pretty brutal fight back then. But yeah, we came a long way, didn't we?
Oh, see, a lot of people, well, again, they won't understand it because they're so used to seeing mixed martial arts today with all the weight classes. But then back then, there was no weigh-in because there was no weight class. They just matched you up and say, well, are you willing to fight this guy? Yep. You really didn't know the background. Are they a taekwondo guy, a boxer, kickboxer, a wrestler, jiu-jitsu? I mean, you just did not know. It was like the wild, wild west.
You're right. And that was, that was, I hate to say it, the fun of it, because, you get beat up a lot. But I'll never forget the first time I saw you fight. It was in Birmingham.
Okay, weren't we on the same card together though? I remember we were on a card together. It's when we first met.
That was in Georgia when you and I were on the same card together, and I think it might have been one of Jamie Levine's.
Well, again, you're probably right about that there too. I just remember I kept thinking, because I always, I kept thinking I was one of the older competitors. And then I see you, I'm thinking, wow.
You were.
To me, it's I look at that going, I got all kinds of time to fight. Look, this guy over here. He literally, that's what I was thinking to myself. I'm thinking, oh, I got plenty of time.
When you and I fought, I get 15 story of Birmingham. So, back then too, remember, you didn't fight one fight a night. Not like they do now. They'll fight one fight. Like I could never go to the UFC and fight. I forget who the guy was, the matchmaker then for them. But he said, no, he said, because, you couldn't stand the training and everything at my age. Well, I accepted that for a long time. As you know, I became a judge and then referee, et cetera. But and when I saw you, it was a tournament. And I was trying to remember, Don Fry, I think may have been. I don't know if Don fought or not, but that whole thing, you fought once, and if you won, that was good news. And the bad news is you got to fight again in the next 15, 20 minutes.
Yes.
And I'll never forget going to I take my students that I could into the locker room to see the guys, and see. I said, so you see that guy? He's all beat up. He won. He won the fight. So if you're willing to do this, you got to assume that's what's going to happen. But you were in that tournament. You won that. I was trying to remember who you fought, but there was, and actually a couple of them have passed away now. Well, there was who was the guy that fought Mark? A black guy. He fought for a while.
I talk about Mark Coleman.
Yeah, he fought Mark.
What?
I can't remember.
Okay.
But he, I never forget. I had to judge that. I had to judge a fight with him, and I can't remember who it was now. But he got on top. That's where the lay and pray came in. You remember that? Where a guy would lay on top of you, and then eventually the referee was supposed to get you up.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a lot of people that were doing the lay and pray, or but as long as you stayed active, because a lot of times the referee would start to talk to you,
bang him at least.
Active.
Yeah. But this fight wasn't, and I can't remember who was in the fight. Was it?
The only name I can think of right now would be like a Big Daddy Gary Goodrich. Would that have been it? The person that we're talking about right now, he's a big arm wrestling champion.
Yeah, this guy, if I can remember, I know you know him because he was pretty good.
Okay,
fought in a lot of big matches, but he was on the lay and pray, so he was on top of the guy the whole time, and the guy on the bottom just kept banging away on him, never stopped hitting him, even though he was on the bottom. So, but the guy on the top didn't bang him at all. He was basically laying and praying the fight to get over. Well, so I, as a judge for that, for UFC on that, I picked the other guy to win. And we had a hotel room in Birmingham then that UFC provided, and he was not happy with the with the results, because back then I guess you got to stay active. That was key, and he never did. And his head was he had dyed his hair, blonde, and he had a real short haircut. And it was just, if he come out of the fight, it was red. And that was for the guy on the bottom just kept beating the fool out of him, and his head was bleeding.
Oh, wow.
The guy was sitting next to me. I mean, his room was next to me on that hotel. He was not happy. He screamed and hollered all up and down the hall. And my wife and I were in the room. And I said, let's go eat. She says, I'm not going out there. She said, I'm not going because I said, come on, let's go. He's not there. We had to eat that night in the room. She wouldn't go out. But I wish I could remember his name. And he's passed away now. He fought a lot for Jamie as well. So I wish I could remember.
Was that part of the Hammer House? Was that Kevin Randleman, perchance? Again, if it was,
it was Kevin.
Okay, because like I say, Kevin Kevin was a real physical specimen, but he had blonde hair at one point in time as well.
Oh yeah.
So the more you start describing, I kept thinking it sounded like yeah.
Yeah, that was him, and his hair was red after that fight, and it was the final of that fight. You weren't in this particular one, but I remember taking one of my students to the guy's dressing room, and he was pretty bloody. And I said, he won. And so you're willing to do this. That's the way it is. Because back then, as you know, we had no rules. And I asked Mark's coach back then, I said, is he going to be able to fight the next fight? He goes, oh, yes, he'll be all right. He just needs a little air. Well, he needed air in Arizona because he was beat up. But he came back out and fought. People don't know that back then we had no weight groups. Had no age groups, never had an age group.
Nope.
Even though the guy wouldn't let me fight. But, had a couple of rules, and that was it. And, didn't make anything like the money they're making today.
Oh, yeah, no, it was I would actually be embarrassed to even say what some of the prices that I received way back then. But I even say, even working for the number one company, the UFC, My first time ever walking into that UFC octagon, my guarantee was $1,000 to walk inside of a cage. Once again, the rule sets were NHB, no biting, no eye gouging.
Yeah.
Even then, those were not grounds
Yeah.
for disqualification. No gloves. It was bare knuckled. They allowed me to wear wrestling shoes,
Yeah.
but they're like, oh, well, if you wear wrestling shoes, you can't kick or stomp anybody. I'm thinking, well, what did I lose? I don't kick or stomp in the first
I
place.
remember that.
And,
Yeah.
I was flying by the seat of my pants because what was my training camp? 5 days, an hour and a half a day. And I walked into the crazy world of cage fighting. So,
Yeah. At least you had wrestling as a background. A lot of those guys didn't. They were kickboxers because they fought with, and that's what I did first pro, was doing that. And actually, I think that's much worse. You'll probably agree with me. Much worse sport, because guys would kick in the head or hit you in the head.
Yes.
That's all they could do. And there was no taking the time out to break.
It's one thing to be hit with a fist, but when you get hit with the whole power of a leg or get hit with a knee, people don't realize the devastation power, how much bigger, thicker that leg is, and you get a little momentum on that. Even if it hits you into a rib cage, or if it hits you into the high part of your thigh or something like that, it's going to, it stings you pretty good, but if you hit one, or if you hit two or three more anywhere in that vicinity, it's going to put you down, because it just that bruise just deepens and deepens. It hurts that much more. I mean, a classic example was Paul Varlan's when he fought Marco Ruas from Brazil, and Marco Ruas simply chopped down the polar bear with these devastating leg kicks to where Paul couldn't walk anymore and toppled him, and that just showed, again, a David versus Goliath scenario.
One of the, and not except for you and I didn't kick, but when I would try and put my martial arts and my kicking in there, and I used to come out in a right-handed stance. I'm ambidextrous, although my son would say I was confused. That's what he said, because I didn't favor right or left-handed, and so he said, "You're confused, Dad." So, but I would come out right-handed, and then I would do a
switch off to softball,
a spin, either kick, and then I was back in my natural stance. But back then was all together. My first match in Atlanta lasted 22 minutes on one round, right? 22 minutes, and I swore after that I would never go more than one round.
Yeah,
but because it could go on and on and on until you either tapped or the guy quit. So
a lot of people did not realize, even during the time of the UFC, in those early beginnings, the average match for a no-holds-barred match in the UFC was 2 minutes, 22 seconds. So to think that you went 20 some odd minutes, that's like the value of a couple tournaments over, knowing that there's only two things you really can't do,
Yep. Well, the guy I fought, I can't remember his name now, but he had gotten out on parole. This is the truth. He gotten out on parole, and he was big. I don't think he ever fought but a couple of fights after that. But he picked me up and slammed me, and I don't think I've ever been that high in the air since, without jumping off something. But he made the UFC's, not the UFC, made Jamie Levine's reel, his fight reel. But, I always would revert back to, I started boxing the boys club, and I was comfortable doing that. And I remember when I met you first, you didn't even wrap your hands, did you?
No, I never, I actually, when they finally started wearing gloves, they wanted you to wrap your hands. Well, I would always, I never wrap my hands. Or then at one show, finally, the athletic commission was hovering over top of me. You must wrap your hands. I go, what is the bare bones minimum I have to put on my hands? They're like, well, at least one piece of gauze, one piece of tape. So I put the one piece of gauze, one piece of tape, and literally, as I'm shoving my hand into the glove, it's falling off. And the athletic commission commission's like, well, that's not going to do you any good. I go, what part of I don't want to wear any tape at all? Because I wasn't, Skip, I always tell people, I was not going to win fisticuffs. That's not my forte. But The way that
I remember.
they taped your hands, it would restrict your movement to where you literally almost couldn't really
Yes.
clinch people. And to me, it's like going, I'm not going to win fisticuffs. I'm going to win for the fact that I could grab and I could grapple, and that's what
Yep.
I did.
Yeah. Well, when you and when I finally, you know, they.
I want us to lead up to the story there because there's a lot of comedy to the whole match there in essence. I mean, you know, and the fact that I think Sally was almost like, you know, going to scold us both.
Do it. Well, when I told her you and I were going to fight, you know, she would go to me at all the fights. Yeah, I tell everybody she was the best MMA fan there was, and you know, she never watched one of my fights. Never did. We went to England, we fought there, and she wouldn't watch, and she never would. And she was, you know, she knew every rule. You know, she was very, very articulate in that. But she said, "Why have you taken a fight with Dan?" And I said, "Well, you know, we're friends. We're going to fight though." And she said, "Well, he'll kill you." And I go, "Well, Dan don't strike." I said, I'll have to tap. And I did. You know, I said, he does a crossbody. I said, I know that's what he's going to end up doing. He don't want to punch. And I said, so, you know, the chances of me coming on it without being bloody are really pretty good. But she did not. And people don't know. You remember where you stayed that night before? You stayed at my house.
Yes,
we're going to fight the next day.
I mean, how many people could even fathom the fact that I stayed at your home? I've eaten at your house there with you guys, and that fact.
Yeah.
Well, I still remember when the promoter, again, I forget his name, but when the promoter contacted me, he contacted me a couple of times, and I simply turned. I turned the match down. I go, and the promoter said, "Well, why?" I said, I've got no axe to grind with Skip. I totally respect the man. I love Skip. You know, I love to see. I go, he's my inspiration here right now. I don't want to go against. I said I hope to be his age one day and still doing this kind of stuff. He's my hero in the process. And I remember when you called me up, I mean, all I know is that you said all kinds of wonderful things, and all I simply know is as the phone is hanging up, I go, I just realized I agreed to fight Skip Hall. And I'm thinking, I'm in a no-win situation here right now. It's kind of going, you know, I mean, I get take this the kindly, because I mean this with all my heart every now and then. I go, if I win, so what? I beat a 63-year-old guy. You know, I mean, people aren't going to be pulling cartwheels over that. But I go, but on the counterpart, if I lose, I just lost to a 63-year-old guy. So it's like a double-edged sword right now. It's like going, I'm in a no-win situation. And then that night in the fight, I mean, I literally could see it in your eyes. It's like going, Skip is geeked up. He's ready to go. And I'm thinking, I'm torn here right now. I was like going, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this match here at all here. I mean, I'm thinking I'm flying by the seat of my pants on anything I could do out here.
Well,
all I know is when they said fight, you came up, you're blazing your hands and stuff like this. I'm trying to parry punches and trying to get to a clinch of sorts. And then as I get the clinch, it's kind of going. Normally, I would launch somebody, and in the process of launching them, I would become airborne, so that when we made impact, you would hit the mat first, and then I would hit with my 275 pound body with all that momentum, and towards like, if I cracked a rib, if I broke a rib, if I knocked the wind out of it, to me it's like going, in my book, that was all bonus points off of the throw, and it was always easier to finish people when I would do stuff like that. I'm thinking, I can't do this to Skip. I'm trying to think.
We did.
Yeah. Well,
you know, what's funny, I tell people, say, I have a guy the other day where he's the deputy up here in the county, and I'm a reserve deputy up here. And TJ, he's actually the public relations guy now, for great guy, black preacher in the area up here, but really a super guy. He said the other day, he sent me an email, said, I forget what it was. He said, and you know, Dan, you fought Dan. I said, yeah, it wasn't much of a fight. I said, but, you know, I said, at one time, I don't know if you know it or not, I think I told you before, you and I, that fight was the oldest, had the oldest prize fighters ever.
Yes.
You know, that
Yes.
later on somebody beat that, but and people say no, it wasn't, but it was. You know, truly
Yeah,
was.
I actually I tell people that I knew there was one other match that said they beat ours, but I kept thinking I would like to know really who that was, because I think I think two guys basically staged something just so they could say that. Where I mean, ours was actually a legitimate actual combat match of the no holds barred era.
Yeah, and I tell you what, what you said, if you won, you just beat an older guy. If you lost, then you got beat by an older guy.
Yes.
That actual that saying was the reason I had a hard time finding fights, and I'd have to take fights that I really shouldn't have been in.
Oh, I totally agree. I could see it from that perspective. I could see that from different perspective right there. The promoters like going, you know, but we'll give you this guy. It's kind of like going, and now you're kind of like, well, this is going to be my only opportunity. I may have to take this opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. Who was a matchmaker in the UFC back then? You remember? I can't remember his name.
Oh, I mean, there's been several. There was a John Peretti at one point in time. There was
It was John Peretti.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good. And John told me, he said, I said, I want to, you know, after I fought for a couple of years, I said, I'd like to fight in the UFC. He goes, can't do it. I said, I'm one, you couldn't stand the repetition. If you won, you'd have to fight again. And said, and then he said the same thing you said. If you fight and get hurt, he goes, I'm in trouble. And he said, you could really get hurt. I know that. My dad, who is 5'10", I told him, I came in and said, Dad, I'm going to do MMA fighting. He goes, you can get hurt. I said, I know that. I said, man, I can hurt them too. And he never said another word, but he never got to see me fight. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, never did. I don't know if you know or not. My real name is Jess Willard. Oh,
I did not know that.
Well, yeah, Jess Willard was called the Great White Hope in boxing because he fought the black guy that was heavyweight champion, and they were thinking that Jess Willard was going to beat this guy. That was back, you know, they did boxing back then with, you know, you do round after round after round, and they were, you know, bare knuckles. Couldn't do any of the other stuff, but so they would, and you know, they fought. It's so funny because people that knew, my dad was named after him. You know, I was a junior, and so I kind of got, you know, toyed with a little bit later in high school now because people would, you know, use that and say, you know, you got a boxing background, and yeah, you know, I knew enough to sometimes not get hurt, but yeah, but people don't know you and I spent you know, you was at our house at night. Sally has a picture. Everybody listen, Sally's my wife. Sally has a picture of you and I lying on the carpet in our living room, and I think you're on a computer or something, the phone or whatever, me too. And to caption under that, we're two nerds. They said they're two nerds. And you know, it's kind of funny. A guy asked me one time, you know, was interviewing me. And I remember some of those interviews are stupid, but he said, you know, you're an engineer. And the guy I was fighting at that time in Birmingham was also an engineer. He said, you guys should know better than this. And I go, you know, so some people play golf. We just hit each other in the face. I mean, you know, that's what we do. And I said, you know, not that I dislike the guy or anything, but it's just what we're supposed to do. You know, and I know, you know, back then the draw from all of this was no holds barred. In the first match I saw, I don't know who the first with the Gracies was, but it was like watching grass grow. You know, it was all on the ground. And at that time, most people didn't know anything about ground fighting, MMA, jiu-jitsu, period. Yeah, so it was like watching grass grow, you know, and he would win, and he would win, and he would win, and he would win. And people, you know, people even thought some of the matches were put on. I go, you need to go to the locker room, you need to go to the dressing room and see them after the fight. It's not put on.
Yeah.
So, today I can show my hands, my knees, my legs. I did a lot of fighting, kickboxing, did a lot of boxing, and then of course MMA. And I'm kind of paying for it. I don't know if I'm paying for it because there I'm just getting old,
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
know.
Well, let me
You,
go ahead, Skip. Go ahead.
yeah. No, go ahead. That's all right. Go.
Well, basically, I wondered. Okay, like, I think you said you're 73 now.
Yeah,
Okay.
almost 74.
Okay, almost 74. Goals. Okay, because I know you've always been a rather goal-oriented individual. Okay, at 70, almost 74 now, what kind of goals do you have for yourself at this juncture of life? I mean, because I want people to understand you're from a different kind of cloth. You're not, you're not sitting around in your rocking chair with the dog on the
No.
porch. No, I know you better than that. So I want people to hear
Yeah.
from your mouth. What are you doing nowadays?
Well, I have a great grandson right now. Not a grandson. I have a great grandson. And when I know why you have kids young, because when he comes over and stays with Sally and I for a couple of days, he's 18 months old. And
Oh, wow,
when he
18.
leaves, we don't even get up in the morning until about 10 because he's gonna wore us out. But that's a lot. Yeah. But I had two sons that were killed in car accidents, two different times. And both of them were living with us at the time. And so I've tried to, help other people that we could. And I was in the IT business until Honeywell actually kind of made me retire. My goals right now, though, is, we go to church a lot. We go to, and that I'm actually Sally's gopher because she does all this. She's a great caterer, and I'm the go boy. Go do this.
Now
do
that I can attest to because again stayed at your home, stuff like that, had some of those fantastic meals, and then again I did not know she was a caterer at that time. I think I made a couple compliments because I think I even shared with her that my mother was a caterer for 20 some odd years, and I always tell people I was never in the military, but I can tell you what KP duty was all about. I have peeled thousands of pounds of potatoes to the point that I could eat. Yeah.
I had to do KP only one time in the military, and I was either a squad leader or platoon leader, and I had to peel potatoes. And I remembered, it was an endless supply of raw potatoes coming. And the cook was a big old guy. A big guy, like the stereotype, big, huge, fat guy too. And then I got tired of peeling potatoes. So, I had to peel them and had to slice them. Well, I got tired of doing that, and they just kept coming. So I peeled them, and then I would, instead of cutting them, I put the whole potato in. Well, it would hide at the bottom of all the things. Well, he would go in there, dump that whole thing in, and then splash the oil back on him. He would cuss me left and right. But there's a lot of story going with that with the military. But so my goals today, actually right now, I'm trying to find some part-time work, or I did a lot of security and went to Iraq. That is over an FOB there for security, and so I'd like to do some part of it because here I got a lot of stuff to do. With our house is hit with a tornado.
Well, I was going to talk about that. But I want to pause you for 1 second. If people want to get in contact with you, is there an email address, a social media outlet where they can reach you at, so that, again, because you do have a lot of extensive background in the IT field and security and other aspects, where or how can someone get in contact with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, like most people breathing, and it's pretty easy to. It's under J Skip Hall, and that's also my email, jskip@icloud.com. But yeah, I'm a victim of that as well. You talk about when I started in the computer business. We back then a computer would be the size of this room, and we have more power today in our phone than we did with a bunch of those things, and it's much easier than it used to be.
I was just going to try to grab my little laptop case just to kind of show you a comparison. Now you got this laptop, but at the same token, even on the cell phone, you still have that same laptop is right there on the cell phone.
Yep, and a lot of that's good. A lot of it's turned out to be bad, but we're a lot further along now. Some of the people aren't much further along. A lot of people today are users. They wouldn't know how to fix something. They're users.
Yes.
And, that's okay. That's what way it's gone. But I remember I was soldering a board, putting a resistor back on a board. And the young lady was with me. She, that was business at the home. I was soldering, she goes, wow, how'd you learn to do that? I've been doing it for about 20 years now. We had to fix the problem on the board. And, we weren't users. That's a big difference today. And that's the way we took the industry. So, we're a victim or benefactor of that.
See, I want people.
So my goal is pretty simple.
I was going to jump in there, just let people know that. Okay, you make it sound like you're taking it easy, but you're not taking it easy, because I know was it a tornado or was it a hurricane that came through?
It was a tornado, and
it leveled all kinds. It leveled all kinds of trees on your property.
Yeah, I live close to the Warrior River, and it actually in a steam plant is about a mile away. The tornado started at basically the steam plant, came up the river, and then the road that I live on, it turned and did a 9-degree turn there. Every house except for my dad's old house, which is on across from mine, every house there had some damage. There was a split level that it split it. It split the house. We had 4 trees on the house, and
wow,
had a couple guys that friends in the neighborhood, and they came. We got the trees off and on. Pretty fortunate on that, but I'm still fixing stuff from that thing.
Well, you not only are you fixing stuff, but you're still clearing property. You're chopping up this wood. I know you've got probably some type of a wood burner there too, because you probably burned it. You probably have enough wood there to last you another 20, 30 or more years in a process. Because again, I know you're that hands-on guy to where you're gonna do it yourselves. Between you and Sally, you're gonna do it yourselves.
That's true, and she helps me. Actually, I have to get her to hold back because, I'll pick up, a piece of wood that's been cut, that we got to split, put it in the log splitter. I got a log splitter now. And put it in the log splitter. She tries to do it herself, and she does a lot of it by herself. She didn't have a bad back, and she knows my back's kind of screwed up, but she doesn't know when not to do it. But yeah, I won't sit. I couldn't sit. I'm doing a bunch of new stuff on AIT on artificial intelligence and machine level stuff. I'm doing that now. I'm writing an application for that for the utility companies. But yeah, I used to say if you ever stop, you're dying. And my mom and dad, when my mom quit having to work every day and was at home. I'm talking about you. Dan's on here. Sally's bringing me a martini. That's my.
I see. Well,
it's my evening.
It's happy hour. It's happy hour. It's a happy hour somewhere. I'll simply say.
No.
I'll say hello to Sally there if she can hear me in the background.
You said, "Hey, Dan."
Yeah, nope. I heard her. No, it puts a smile on my face. Again, I want people to know that there's some real Americans that even. For the fact that you started a fight career at age and what you went up to, again, as I stated before, you're my hero. These are the aspirations I had, knowing that I probably aren't going to live up to them the way that you did. but then also the fact that you're not sitting on a porch in a rocking chair. You're still doing
No.
on a daily basis because you're still taking care of your property. You take pride in ownership. You take pride in what you have. I go, these are things that as this episode airs, I want more Americans to realize, take a little more pride in ownership. Take a little bit more pride in our country. Help to educate, help others to do the right thing. We got too many people doing the wrong thing right now, but I want more people to do the right thing. And there is a reason why everyone is coming to the United States, because we really are the land of opportunity, but we need to hold our elected officials to a little bit higher standard, because the reality is our tax dollars pay their salary. So thus, we are their boss. They are the employee, but it has kind of changed around. It's not what is there. And I want people to understand this, that if you're not happy with what's happening, start making some phone calls. Start off with your state representative, or you may start with your county, Republican office, or your county Democratic office, or again, non-denomination, whatever you want to go to. Call somebody and let them know, hey, I'm not exactly happy with what's taking place right now. I don't like the price of gas. I don't like what's happening here. I don't want to sit at home. I don't want to sit at home and wear a mask wherever, because you're seeing all these things that are changing. I go, what actually changed? What actually changed about the whole COVID thing? That
honestly, I think when the world started changing, when America started changing, I think we took God out of the schools. Today you can't. I mean, we can't even do Christmas stuff, that we used to do.
Yeah,
and
they don't want you to say Merry Christmas. They want you to say Happy Holidays.
Absolutely. And I think that was the beginning of, we all want better things for our kids and grandkids and all, but I agree with you. Somebody's still got to cut the wood, and I don't see anybody else around here. So, we heat a lot with the fireplace, and the best fire builder around, Sally, and she grew up on a farm, and so she does that. That's her task. I go get stuff, bring it in, and she builds the fire. She just
and I actually have I think I told you before, I acquired a little cottage, on some waterfront, and to me it's like going. It has a wood burning stove. That's the only heat in the place, and I love the fact when I'm out there, I've gathered up maybe a quick little wheelbarrow full of wood just to get some kindling going and stuff like that, and then also see to feel the heat come out off of that. It just gives you, first off, it gives you a sense of accomplishment, but then you get that warm feeling of the heat that comes out there, and then your significant other is happy because she's warm now as well.
Yeah, and I was never a cat fan. If you live with Sally, you're gonna have to put up with cats, and so. And by the way, I've had my own now in the last few years, but the cats love it. They get on the rug in front of the fireplace and they lay there. It's hard for me to get to it. I'm having so she has to build a pretty big fire. But you're right. I see a lot of. We were watching a movie last night, Stand By Me. And
that's a classic movie that I know by heart, and it's like what a great movie.
And in it, they're out camping out, and they got a fire, and they're around the fire sleeping, and guys watching and all. And that takes me back because that's exactly what we used to do. But I'm gonna tell you, Dan, today if they do it, they're in a RV. Not like we did. Okay. We go out on the land. This is a good place.
I think it's called glamping now, where they have all the luxuries and stuff like that. It's called glamping. It's yes. It has all the amenities that you want. Whereas, having a sleeping bag in a tent, that's a whole different animal there.
Yeah. A lot of times, we would have, just a couple of blankets and lay them down on the ground, a couple of friends, and we would do that. We just kept on and on and on doing it. And I'm glad. And my youngest son got to do a little bit of that, but my oldest son got to do a lot of that. And that both of them. My youngest son, I said, "You're going to have to be tough because the world's getting much, much tougher."
Yes.
And he died at 31, and I made him too tough. He was fearless, absolutely fearless. He did contact kickboxing, and so did my daughter. I have a daughter too, and they all did that. My daughter was funny. She was not any good until the other person bloodied her nose. And then the hellation got loose.
It fired her up then. Yes, I say sometimes that's what it takes for some people. It's kind of like once something happens, it's like it turns that switch on to either fight or flight. You've got your two options there, right there.
Yeah, and she was that way, and to this day, she's an attorney now. God help us. And when she was 7 years old, I said, "You're going to have to be an attorney because you argue about everything." And
so you planted the seed at 7. So Skip, I think you that might be your fault on that one.
My fault. Yeah, and my youngest son, he started out in martial arts with me as a real young kid, and he ended up teaching Taekwondo to all the young people. At that time, I was teaching MMA for the older guys and ladies, and he was teaching all the Taekwondo kids. He was young. 11 and 12 teaching, and some of them were adults. And at first they would question it. They saw him do what he did. And I think all in all, had he had his way, he would have done it anyway, because he got in more trouble than I did. And that's saying a lot, trust me. I'll tell you how bad it was. I went to church one time with a friend of mine, and I'm walking in, and the lady playing the piano quit. She went to school with us. She quit playing when we walked into church, and and so everybody stopped and turned around and looked. And of course, here we are walking down. And so afterwards, I said, "Well, you really kind of embarrassed." She said, "Well," she said, "I saw my friend Bobby." She said, "I saw him walk in, and I was pretty sure his parents were behind him." She said, "But when I saw you, I thought the law was behind you." He was about right. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, we grew up a lot.
I'm sorry.
I hope the world changes better. I hope the world changes for better, because I'm not happy with the way overall it is. And we have a lot of issues coming up, and I just hope we have the leadership to do the right things.
Well, I think that by keeping some true Americans like yourself around and helping to inspire the next generation is what I'm looking for right now, because I don't think that most young people don't understand what they're losing in the process. But I'm getting the signal here that we need to start wrapping that up. But I want you to plug one more time that Skip Hall here. You've got how many years working in the IT area?
Since 1969.
So I'm going to say,
when I got out of the military.
A man with a whole lot of experience there in the IT
years.
world. And how can they contact you?
Probably the best way is if you're Facebook, sign on there, it's J Skip Hall. And feel free to email me or message me. It's the letter J, SKIP, HKLL at iCloud.com.
Because I just wanted to plug that one more time. Well, Skip, I tell you what, I could yak at you forever, but we're gonna let you go.
We could.
And we'll probably bring you back here at another time, but we'll go into yet another direction here on some conversation. But but Skip, as always,
sure.
It's been fantastic to see you here once again. I will probably see you sometime this summer as I'm making my way down towards a Florida tour, and so I'll be stopping on in to sample some more of Sally's good cooking.
Yeah, and she's gotten better at that, even than what she was when you were here last.
Wow.
We are always welcome here. And I feel like we're good, great friends, and I appreciate that.
Nope, that's what I said. That's
So-
true. It's hard to always believe that. Okay, through fighting comes friendships. I go, well, again, yes,
Yeah.
yes, it does. I've actually, even through my UFC days, I've made people that you did battle with once. Now you're friends with. So it's kind of like going. It's kind of unique how that works out like that. But I think a few more people should be involved in the martial arts or some type of a combative sport, because it does teach you a lot of great quality and caricature traits. So once again,
Absolutely. And
Skip, last word here, and then we'll be signing off.
well, I think if you always do the right thing, whatever you're doing, and do it the best you can, that's where we need to go with this country. Right now, we have a lot of people doing things for us, and we need to fix that. Challenge yourself, and you've got to challenge yourself to get the best out of you. And so that's kind of where we'll leave it with that. I wish the young people would get onto that today. And by young people, I mean 20s down. I think we need that now. So, and the guys that are in the military still support them. We really support them.
Yep.
And I look forward when you come through.
I do too as well.
I'll
Skip.
see you then.
All right. Well, thank you, and
All right.
sign it off. Take care,
Good.
Skip.
See y'all later.
Yep.
Bye-bye. You too.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.